Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. First of all, centrists would like to express our appreciation to our respected panelists, Prof. Dr. Ahmad Farid Ismail, the Deputy Director, Academic and Internationalization, Prof. Dr. Kamal Hassan Rahman, Deputy Director, Student Development and Community Engagement, and Associate Professor Dr. Azizan Noon, a lecturer from Ahas IRK HS, for being able to share, inshallah, their personal views on Prof. Kamal as a Murabi and as a friend. We would like also to welcome brothers and sisters to the MKH Library and Zoom, and to our sharing session series, a tribute to Al-Marhum Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan. Tak kenal maka tak cinta. For your kind information, centrists will organize a series of sharing sessions as a tribute to Al-Marhum Prof. Kamal, who passed away on the 23rd of February 2023. It will be a santai-santai program where the presenters will express their personal views from the deep of their hearts about Prof. Kamal, inshallah. Okay, let me introduce or begin with the brief introduction on the background of Prof. Kamal, inshallah. Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan was a Malaysian academic and Islamic scholar specializing in contemporary Islamic thought, particularly pertaining to the Southeast Asia region. He was a rector of the International Islamic University Malaysia, IUM, from 1998 to 2006. Prof. Kamal Hassan started his academic career at the National University of Malaysia, where he chaired the Department of Usuluddin and Philosophy in 1979 and was later made a full professor. He then joined IUM, where he founded the Faculty of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences in 1983. He succeeded Professor Emeritus Dato Abdul Hamid Ahmad Abu Sulaiman as the third rector of IUM on 5th of April 1998 and served in the office before passing it on to Professor Dato Sri Syed Arabi Syed Abdullah Aidid. To mark his contribution to this country, he was chosen to be the national academic figure in 2017. He left IUM on 30th July 2018 after 42 years of service to Malaysian education, on which IUM awarded him the title of Professor Emeritus. He then was appointed as the advisor for Center of Islamization, Centris. He was one of the 3 academicians in Malaysia who was promoted to the rank of distinguished professor by the Ministry of Higher Education in 2010. As a remembrance of Prof. Kamal Hassan, Centris is organizing a series of sharing sessions to honor his great contributions to the Muslim Ummah in terms of his roles as a Murabi and friend, as a rector of IUM, as a father and man, and as a great Islamic scholar. Basically, the objectives of the programs are to appreciate the contribution of Prof. Kamal to the university and to the Muslim Ummah, to pay the tribute to the achievements of Prof. Kamal and share great memories to the world, to acknowledge Prof. Kamal as one of the great Muslim scholars, and to exemplify Prof. Kamal as a great Muslim role model and aspiration for the new generation. And inshallah, as to start a ball rolling, okay, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Ahmad Farid Ismail to express his views on Prof. Kamal Hassan.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Thank you very much, Brother Faizal, and my colleagues, Prof. Akmal and Prof. Hazizan, and also, of course, my brothers and sisters who are following our session this morning. I guess, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, we are in the blessed month of Ramadan when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, A'udzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaikumus siyam kama kutiba alal ladzina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you as has been prescribed for people before you, la'allakum tattaqun, to achieve taqwa. And that is, I think, I want to relate with Prof. Kamal Hassan. I think today theme is about Murabbi and friend. I think for me, it's more like a father than friend. And of course, I remember, this is also related to maybe this month of Ramadan, in one of the latest ibadah camp that I attended, listening to him. He was reminding us to read the dua, Allahumma inna nas'aluka ridhaka wal jannah. I remember Prof. Kamal reminded us in that ibadah camp that we should make dua to Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us his redha and his jannah, okay, and of course not his wrath and his hellfire. So, and of course this dua also is well recited in this month of Ramadan. So I think let us begin by making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give Prof. Kamal what he wants, the pleasure of Allah and the Jannah, the paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive his soul, accept all his amal ibadah, amal saleh, and grant him the paradise. For me, myself, of course, I was maybe a late comer compared to my colleagues. Because of course, I mean, when I came back from my PhD in 1993, that is and at that time, I think we were establishing the kuliah of engineering. So when I first came back, my boss at that time, Dr. Sufyan Al-Irhayim, brought me to Prof. Kamal, his office in PJ. And of course, true enough, my first impression is his table was very small. There are two chairs, but behind him, there are books up to the ceilings, you know. So I think when I am in this library now, I think that remind me of my first encounter with Prof. Kamal. Behind his back, books, I mean, filling all the wall up to the ceiling. So in my heart, I say, wow, this man, I think he has, read all these books. So this is, I think, the first impression as a Murabbi, that for me it's very difficult to follow, difficult to, beat him. And true enough, until the end, I think he has been reading a lot, okay? And until the end also, just to share with you some of the events. This is after he became the advisor to Centris. In some of the event, we invited him to deliver keynote speech. So, but to our surprise, subhanallah, I think he did not only deliver a speech, he will also give us a book from that speech. Like, I can give you a specific example, like for example, the book that he wrote on Sejahtera from Islamic perspective, and he said Al-Falah. It was presented in a special seminar. He was the keynote speaker, and then after that, he gave us a book. Similarly, with the book of the one that is very popular towards the end, the corruption in the Malay politics, he was also given a lecture on that. And then after that, he said, no problem, give me a few more days, I will perfect it and make it a book. And true enough, I think we was also informed when the book wanted to be translated also, he took upon himself to translate the book into different languages. And so as a Murabi, Allahu Akbar, I think very difficult to, follow. I think he has set a very high standard with all his perfect three languages that he have. Excellent in English, Arabic, as well as in Malay language. So in this very short time, maybe I can focus on 2 or 3 points as Murabi and friends. Number one, since day one, Professor Kamal has been talking about Islamization of selves. I think this is my first theme for today, Islamization of selves. And since day one, I met him. He was the Deputy Rector of Academic Affairs at that time. One of the first ibadah camp that I attended, not really ibadah camp, I think it was the TIDE program. TIDE, T-I-D-E, TIDE program. So the TIDE program at that time, I remember my time, we were put in the Institute Amiruddin Baki Hostel in Genting Highland. So we shared, 2 of us share a room, okay? But what is amazing is Prof. Kamal was there, especially during Qiyamul Lail. So that type program at that time, we have 2 nights of Qiyamul Lail. And then, of course, normally, I always came late for the Qiyamul Lail, and Prof. Kamal is there, sitting there at the door. Okay, so this is, I think, he's showed a good example, as well as his commitment to Islamization of selves, and not only that, part of it, if you read the vision, the mission of IIUM, as well as many documents like the integrity policy, for that matter, even the IIUM disciplinary rules. So when he mentioned that, first of all, he normally meticulously craft the sentence to have a full impact. So one of the main theme that you realize is this, the concept of ibadah that he has been talking about. So this is one thing. When talking about Islamization of selves, he's talking about the holistic view of Islam, the Islamic worldview, and the work as ibadah. So I guess he has shown us a good example, and I think for us, both staff, academic, as well as administrative staff, technical staff, as well as students, I think this is one thing that Prof. Kamal has been reminding us, that work as ibadah, study as ibadah, going to class as ibadah, working, delivering lecture as ibadah, meaning that work as ibadah. And when I was the Dean of Engineering, normally when Prof. Kamal or MSD organized an interview for new recruit, the Dean was called and he was the chairman. So I remember one candidate called. When the candidate was interviewed, he was from the industry. So, we were wondering why you want to come and join the university, because you are getting maybe 2 or 3 times better outside. And then finally, Prof. Kamal said that, brother, we cannot guarantee you a better salary here, but we can guarantee you a path to paradise. See, I think I still remember until today he mentioned that to that candidate. So the holistic concept of ibadah that he has, meaning that you come here, with full commitment to get the paradise of Allah, to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And true enough, I think many stories that he related, when he, started the university. I think this is a very important, I think, especially for our young, new staff, and of course, the current student. I think Prof. Kamal being the founder, I would say that maybe founder, there are a little bit controversial because many people want to claim to be the founder of the university. But one thing that is not controversial is Prof. Kamal is the one that wrote the concept paper for this university, because he was invited by the government. I think then was Sulaiman Daud, the minister, invited a few of them with the Director General, blah, blah, blah. And he was assigned the task to write the concept paper and the original proposal for the university. So in that sense, I think he put in writing what should be the objectives, the direction, the way forward for the university. So meaning to say that, and of course, he did this also in some of his writings. So one of the things that he always share with us is this. I go back to my the importance of Islamization of selves. I mean, for him, that a scholar, should be humble, should not have, ego. Should listen, and he practiced this. He walked the talk. So for him, and of course for him, I think a scholar also should be close to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Like I mentioned, I started in the beginning, la'allakum tattaqun, have this fear to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and accountability towards Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So that's why, brothers and sisters, I think this Islamization of selves for him is part of and parcel of the Islamization as a whole. Meaning to say that at IIUM, we are not only want to see our staff and students who are good intellectually or physically or mentally, but at the same time, I think the spiritual aspect, the closeness to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and this is, of course, with this blessed month of Ramadan, I think this is very relevant to our discussion this morning. Okay, the next thing that I would like to touch on is in my interaction with him from day one until the end. He always looked at the bigger picture of the ummah, and primarily he is very concerned about unity of the ummah. And in fact, I think whoever who has been involved with his Vision 2077 project, this is one of his main concern. Whether the ummah can be united, can be strengthened, can be can work together towards the success, and toward delivering our job as Khalifah on this earth. So I can cite you a few examples. When I first joined the university, maybe some of us recall, I think one of the issue at that time was the different parties, different Islamic, approach, inclination. We have parties, we have different NGOs, so on and so forth. So he always reminded us at that time, put your party, your flags at the gate. So when you are coming to the campus, I think I'm not sure whether he always reminded this. Put your flag at the gate. So when you come here, we are one ummah, we are one brothers and sisters. We work together. Okay, leave your flags at the gate. Later on, I think he told some of us that we, the academics, should be above politics. So he's very concerned. At that time, I think he was with some of his colleagues, some friends, trying to advise our Majlis Raja-Raja on the unity of the Ummah. So that's why we as academicians, I think we should be above politics. The moment that we take side, then the other segment of the Ummah will not accept you. So he said that we, the academicians, must be above politics. Let the politicians do whatever they want, but we, the academicians, the scholar, I think maybe for that matter, with the ulama, has to be above politics, trying to moderate and trying to bring the ummah together. And of course, later on, he was also involved with Lepai, and then the latest one, he was the chairman of JAKIM. So this is one of the mission that he's trying to do, above politics. So this political party is just a vehicle. It's not the end, okay? But what is more important is the Muslims should unite, especially in the matters of shared objectives, shared vision, and shared goals for the country. And of course, there are other examples that I learned from Prof. Kamal, that his advice is, he said that, I mean, the scholars should provide ideas, solution, advice to the politicians with sincerity. This is very important. Because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not because of we are trying to please the boss, not because we want to please the prime minister, not because we want to please the king, but because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sincerity is very, very important. So that's why I think if we followed a few of his latest interview with Awani, for example, or Sinar, on this book on corruption of politics, I think he said that he's concerned about when the disunity happened among the Muslim Ummah. Okay, my last point is about his always talk about this Islamic worldview, the correct worldview, the tasawwur Islam, the correct tasawwur Islam, the correct Islamic worldview. So that's why I think IUM since the beginning, I mean, has taken this path where we use our English as a medium of instruction. That one is already very unique because we are an Islamic university but using English as medium of instruction. Normally is Arabic or local language, but we are using English as the medium of instruction with the hope that this will propagate our Islamic worldview. The correct Islamic worldview can be propagated, I mean, for the whole universe. That is what we talk about, rahmatan lil alamin. And as all of you know by now, that even our IUM song lyrics are all Professor Kamal's words, rahmatan lil alamin, all this Iqra and ibadah and all of these things. So with all this, because Alhamdulillah, I think I have the opportunity, I mean, because I became the founding deputy dean of the Kuliah of Engineering, and at that time, in 1994, deputy dean has to attend Senate. For each Kuliah, there are two members, dean and deputy dean. Later on, I think only deans. Okay, so because of that, since 1994, I have been attending the Senate until almost today, except for when I left for sabbatical leave. So I always watch, I mean, Prof. Kamal, he was very, very particular about almost perfection, you know. I mean, meticulous on the Senate papers. Sometimes we spend a lot of time on the transliteration. I think for those of you who are with him in the Senate, all the Ein with the capital C, and when it is long, you have to put bar and all this thing. I think we spend this a lot of time, every Senate, especially when we are approving the thesis, the thesis is in Arabic, and there's a transliteration, and always Prof. Kamal will go and make sure that the transliteration is perfect. So, and then not only that, of course, he always commented on our proposal who are misspelled, wrong spelling, wrong grammar, wrong choice of words, and so on and so forth. So in terms of excellence, I mean, when he said comprehensive excellence, al-itqan, he put this. I mean, he said that, I mean, we cannot be mediocre. I mean, we have to be excellent, and of course, we have to make sure that whatever that we are presenting is perfect, and of course will achieve the objectives. So, brothers and sisters, I think many other things. There are many other things that we learn from Prof. Kamal. I mean, he is. I mean, most of the time smiling and trying to facilitate, trying to assist people, trying to provide ideas on how can we move forward. So we hope that we can learn a lot from this great man, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all his good deeds as amal jariyah and as amal saleh, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him the paradise. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Prof. Haris. Okay, we have heard lots of great stories about Prof. Kamal, and even myself, I do not know much until Prof has said some of the stories that showed Prof. Kamal as a great man. He walked his talk basically, okay, and he is so concerned about the Muslim unity, and also the Islamization of the self, okay, and also the Islamic worldview, the correct Islamic worldview, and so on. Thank you, Prof, for the insights. Now I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Akmal Khuzairi, the Deputy Rector for the Student Development and Community Engagement. Falyatafaddal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'a wa lah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you, Brother Faisal, Prof. Haris, Prof. Azizan, rest of our colleagues and friends who are here. Talking about the late Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan. I had the opportunity to be with him in one office after the departure of Dr. Azizan as the director of Centris in 2016, around that year. Had opportunity for about 2 years to be with Prof. Kamal Hassan in one office, and surely that was a very great opportunity and experience to observe him and also learn from him a lot. I'm going to share some of the things that I observe and also I learned about him, and relate that to his contribution to the body of knowledge of Islamization itself. When you had that kind of opportunity, of course, you often ask Prof. Kamal on certain issues, his opinion about certain perhaps sensitive issues when we were there with him in the office. And one thing that would attract you is the way that he make the approach to certain issues. Although that sometimes the issues is very, very sensitive, but the way that he responded. Number one is the intellectual response that he gave. And number two, it's pretty hard for you to determine what would be his stand I mean, if we are talking about the political aspect of it, right? Or even something, perhaps, small politics, which is happening inside the university itself. And that is one thing that will strike you, is that you cannot actually easily come to one conclusion which side that he is taking in that sense. But although that is the approach that he showed us, but he tried to make the whole thing and put it in another level. It is not something that you, of course, when you ask him the question, you are kind of, you are struck on certain level. You want to know what exactly is the problem. You want to know what exactly is the solution. But when you ask Prof. Kamal on certain things, the way that he gives you answers is that he wants to push you to think and to get the bigger picture. That is always the thing. Meaning to say that, one thing that I learned from Prof. Kamal is that perception about certain matters and issues is the result of the way that you are perceiving things. But when he pushes you for you to have a different level of understanding, then you would see that, there are other things at stake. There are other factors that are actually at play. So these are the things, one informal way of how I learn from Prof. Kamal is that whenever that you talk about certain issue and problem, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that the real issue is there. The real issue is there. Sometimes it pushes you to think about it. That's one thing, the intellectual aspect that I observe from Prof. Kamal. Number two, the way that he gave us opportunity. I mean, this is quite rare. I mean, coming from, I've been in the administration for quite some time, but to have a leader who would come to you and say that, you must give it a try. Because I was a deputy dean in 2015, and then I was asked to helm the administration of Centris after Prof. Azizan went back to the faculty, and I felt, of course, doubtful about myself. Prof, what do you see in myself? To become the director of Centris. But then again, soothing words from him, you see. The way that, I don't know whether the word itself that got into me, or the way that he spoke, in the sense that, he's like a father, like Prof. Faris mentioned to you just now. The whole thing, when you talk with Prof. Kamal, is that, the charm was in such a way that, the way that he look at you, it is not, of course, it is not even, the way that he looks at you is like, he's looking at his own son. That's it. I can say that, right? Like his own son. I got the experience of he coming, and we have these private talks when I was admitted to IJN, and he came over to visit, alone. That is one thing. Just by looking at that confidence that he had in you, gave you the motivation. That is one thing I learned from him. Number three, of course, when I was with him in the office, I never saw anyone who is very, very dedicated like him. Wallahi, he would sit on the couch from 9 o'clock until Zuhur without moving. I said, what is happening to Prof. Kamal? Prof, are you okay? Like that, And then again, continued after the prayer of Zuhur, and he would sit on the same couch, on the same position, until Asr, doing his reading. The way that he was focusing on the whole life. That is why, although that after his retirement, he managed to produce several books, you see. And you can see that the kind of academic work that he produced is something of high quality. The references, the extensive references that he used in his work about wasatiyah, and then again about the corruption. You have all that. and he was talking about the qalb leadership, the way that he was approaching thing, and also the sajatra. And this is another thing about Prof. Kamal, is that his ability to adapt. I mean, we know that he is, from the very beginning, talk about Islamization, and not only talk about Islamization, but he put that into practice, right? But when we have the new leadership, which was focusing on Sajatra, for an example, I mean, we ask him, is it something which is, on the opposite ends? Is it contradictory to one another? But like, if you know Prof. Kamal, he would just look at the positive aspects of it. He would say that no, okay? And he proved that. He proved that through the book about Sajatra, and how that jive with the previous concept and also foundation of Islamization. And he made it. I mean, he made it. If you read the book, end of the day, you will conclude, oh, I mean, this is just an extension of it. Or you would say that, perhaps that it is a near synonym between Sajatra, Islamization. I mean, that would be the conclusion that you would make after reading that. So his ability to adapt, right? The way that he's looking at things, I think that is very, very unique to him. That is why, in terms of the literature of Islamization itself, we must talk about his own unique contribution to the body of knowledge of Islamization. We talk about Al-Faruqi, who was talking about Islamization vis-a-vis the West, right? Because he was Western educated, living in the States, what have you. You have Prof. Taha Jabir Alwani, right? And he was talking about Islamization and how can it be applied to the history, under the context of the Arab Muslims, because he was writing in Arabic as well. You have then Prof. Sayyid Muhammad Naqib al-Attas, who was talking about Islamization as a force to change civilization, the way that Islam imposed its values, its worldview on changing some of the semantics of the words. See? So this is the approach of Prof. Sayyid Naqib al-Attas. But when we come to Prof. Muhammad Kamal Hassan, I think my personal observation is that his contribution to Islamization is in the institutional level, because we haven't seen anything like it applied on the level of institution. But he was talking about policies. I mean, the first time, I would say, the first time we have Islamization policies and guidelines. It was out in 2013, right? And if you really look into these guidelines and policies, I mean, it is not just a policies, but it's also something, a basis, an academic basis for why Islamization needs to be there on the institutional level. He was talking about the 8 pillars, Islamization. And he was extending, like Prof. Faris mentioned just now, I mean, the contribution is now, when you talk about Islamization, it is not just only about imposing or weeding out the Western perceptions, the Western negative values from the disciplines, but we are also talking about the one who is going to Islamicize the whole thing. He was talking about the Islamizer. Islamizer. So because of this Islamizer need for that one, so in centuries, I think that began with Prof. Azizan, began the higher diploma for Islamization. I hope that I got the nomenclature correct, Faisal. Is it diploma in Islamization, right? Postgraduate diploma in Islamization. And among the objective of this postgraduate diploma is what? To actually train those who are going to Islamicize. See? So he was not talking about Islamization as only, an idea, but he was also talking about the practical side of it, how to actually do it. So he was talking about the whole ecosystem of it. And that is why IIUM comes up as the institution who is going to apply for that. Hence, the Islamization policies and guidelines. So if you look at it for an example, he mentioned that Islamization is the foundation of the whole thing. And Islamization is not something that you do, the lecturers are doing, but it is also applicable on the non-academic aspect of the campus life, administration, finance, for an example, and other aspects of it. So he was talking about the self, the inner self. He was talking about the system around it. He was talking about the knowledge. He was talking about the bi'ah, you see, the surrounding, I mean, what needs to be there. So this is something very, very comprehensive. And I think it is something which is quite novel in the sense that when we do the literature review of Islamization, this would be something novel, new, in terms of how he looked at Islamization from the perspective of an institution. From the perspective of an institution. It is something which is total and comprehensive, because when they stated that Islamization is going to be the foundation, the pillars of this university, so it must somehow have that overarching view of cutting across all the aspects of the university management, the academic, the research, the writing of textbooks, and what have you. So this is again the way that Prof. Kamal, when he sees things, he sees some things in a bigger picture, of which I think it is very, very valuable lesson for us. As an academic, that is very important, to maintain the fact that you are not taking side. You are apolitical. You can see that when you went to the day of his departure to the Surau in Bangi, you can see many people from different backgrounds, regardless of the political parties, are there. I mean, that in itself is a testimony how great the man was in terms of influencing people, regardless of their background. I mean, this is something that, you know, cannot be easily done by any other person. But because he was that man, I mean, he believed in that kind of approach that if you are just. I think this is one of the things about Prof. Kamal that we need to know, is that the way that he is judging people, he is judging them, you know, justly. I mean, that is the concept of adl that he was practicing. You know, when he looks at people, although that we have all these differences, you look at the positive things that would bring them together. And what would bring them together is knowledge, ilmu. He was talking about knowledge. He was talking about issues. Even when he was writing the book on corruption, he was talking about the future of the nation itself. I mean, regardless whether you are with this party or that party, end of the day, you must agree the fact that we must be concerned about the future, where the country is going. I mean, if this kind of thing is not treated, see? So the way that Prof. Kamal thought, I mean, the thinking of Prof. Kamal is always something which is unifying. It is unifying. It is unique, you see? It is unique. So that is why that he managed to transcend that kind of differences. And he managed to get that the confidence of those people, although that they are coming from different backgrounds. And I think that this is also a very important characteristics of an academic. Of an academic, I mean, this is the thing that you need to present yourself as an academic. You need to have that bigger view. You need to have that kind of thing, because you are not only concerned with one small party in the society, but rather you have to be concerned about the general people. Who are you? So this is among the things that I learned from Prof. Kamal Hassan, the way that he approaches us, and of course you would hear lots of things about how he would be, you know, someone like a father figure to many of us, the way that he's approaching things, and the way that Prof. Kamal, I mean, my personal view, when he like I mentioned to you, not only that he was a father in the sense that he would have the unique approach, but the way that he is lending his ears to you when he was, you know, when you were speaking, he would listen to you. I mean, attentively, give you the chance, right? Give you that benefit of the doubt, although that you are small, you know, you are still young during that time. 1996, I met up with him, trying to persuade him the fact that, you know, I want to go to do my master degree in UK. He said that you are from Department of Arabic. You know, what on earth that you are going to do in UK? You know? I have to persuade him and telling him, sir, Prof, I'm doing translation, Arabic and English. I have to go this. And he was very attentive to that. I mean, to the point that he finally agreed with me. And that happened not on just one occasion. After that, of course, when I was with him in the office, the way that he listens, as if that he was trying to give you all these opportunities to prove yourself, and then, voila, you have the conclusion by him. So that made him the kind of person you would respect, when you are in person with him, or when he is not with you. The kind of person that you would talk nicely to, of course, physically, and the kind of person that you would respect, although that he is not there with you. I mean, sincerely. And the adab, mashallah. You talk with Prof. Kamal, I felt ashamed of the fact that when I was there, because the director has this bigger office, Prof. Zana. We have this own toilet attached to your room, and then Prof. Kamal was out there. I was offering to him, Prof, please take the room. Please take the room, Prof. No, you are the director. These are the kind of things that will always remain with you forever. Okay? When you talk about a leader like that, a leader, the way that he opens up to you, the leader who would always, the way that he is communicating with you, okay, the way that he's communicating with you, and you feel sometimes very ashamed with yourself, the way the adab, he is the one that if you approach him, you want to shake hand with him, he would stand up. That is that kind of person. Although the stature of what we are talking about, Prof. Kamal himself, as Tan Sri, professor. He was a professor in the 80s. so long, Then again, the way that he treated you. That is, I think, a part of the Murabbi part. When you talk about Murabbi, you are not only talking, but you have that image, the way that you are interacting with your students, the way that you are interacting with your subordinates. That really, leave an impact in you, the way that he was conducting himself. So these are the aspects I think, I would share with the audience about my own experience with Prof. Kamal as a Murabbi. As a Murabbi, of course, I mentioned to you just now, not only on the his private characteristics, but also the way that he make Islamization as the agenda for an institution. I think that even if you try to study and compare IIUM with any other institution in the world, they wouldn't, or perhaps they don't have what we have in terms of the policies, the clear guidelines. And now we are the one who have to do the reflection. Are we doing it or not? That's the thing. Because he spelled out in detail whatever the things that we need to do in terms of Islamization. And the policies are there. Are we doing it in our research? Are we doing it in our TNL, teaching and learning? How far have we gone in terms of implementing all this, right? And he even mentioned the guidelines, the way how we should be doing the Islamization. He mentioned the Islamization in terms of the priorities. There's the low priorities, middle priorities, high priorities, and the highest priorities. Not only that he put it as a policy, as a statement, but he provided us with the way how we should be doing it. Okay, and of course, I think this is no longer the challenge for him. This is the challenge for us now at this university. How to actually look into this one. If you look at those, 80 odd pages of Islamization policy, you would see that, this is the result of thorough thinking. Thorough thinking about how this institution would be. It covers all. Even I say that, it covers whatever that we have under this Sejahtera. It's the same, more or less. But you must understand that Sejahtera is a framework. Okay? And even if you have the analysis of it, Sejahtera is actually the way that we should bring Islamization to its social context. How to make that one, to do that kind of engagement with the community, to have that impact. When you talk about Islamization, it was a thought. We talk about Islamization, was the conversion or the transformation of the self into someone who is knowledgeable in Islam. But how about the society? What about those who are around us, our ecosystem, what have you? So that is actually, for me, what we have at the moment about this Sejahtera framework is an extended interpretation of Islamization. But perhaps that point is, never got the due emphasis that need to be given to, but perhaps that is actually the thing that you understand it, and that was exactly what Prof. Kamal thought when they talk about the current framework. This is good in the sense that it is an extension of what we have been doing. So this kind of thing, I mean, subhanallah, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we will benefit from his ilm, although that I was never a direct student with him. But indeed, if you talk about Murabi, you don't need to sit down in front of a person and listen to him teaching. But you can learn a lot from the way that he's conducting himself, the way that he's interacting with you, the way that he's thinking about issues and problems. So that is the thing that I would like to keep to myself. I mean, this valuable memory of our teacher, Prof. Muhammad Kamal Hassan. That's all for the moment, Faizal. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Based on what has been told to us, Prof. Kamal basically was a very dedicated person and spending most of his time to the intellectual aspects. A very positive person. He touched the hearts of many of us and even motivated us a lot. Okay, thank you, Prof, for the something that you have given us something that what we call that, because I think the thing that narrated by Prof just now touched me a lot also, Prof, because I was with him at Centuries. Okay, thank you, Prof. And the last, would like to invite Prof. Dr. Hazizan Noon, okay, for sharing session on Prof. Kamal Hassan, inshallah, Prof. Inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Faisal from Centris, the moderator for today's session. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Respected Deputy Rector, Academic and Internationalization, who is also one of our panelists today, Professor Dr. Faris Ismail. My dear Deputy Rector, also Students Development and Community Engagement, Professor Dr. Ahmad Khushairi, one of the panelists also, and is a former director of Centris as well. Dear participants, viewers, brothers and sisters here and also those who are online. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And Jum'ah Mubarakah and Ramadan Kareem. Alhamdulillah. First of all, let me express my gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for only by His grace and mercy, Alhamdulillah, we are able to be here today. To say a few words about a person, a man, a scholar, a mentor who has left us, but he doesn't leave us with what we call this anything but legacy. The legacy that we have to treasure and try to benefit. The richness of his legacy will continue to be helping us, assisting us in making sure that we continue his, what he always mentioned is, the divine mandate entrusted upon us. So I think that word is very, very strong, very important, and has deep implication now and in future, which we have to take it very seriously. And thanks, Centris, for inviting me to share some of what I may have through my knowledge and experience. Yesterday was 23rd of March, exactly 1 month our father, our mentor, scholar, has left us. He passed away on 23rd of February 2023, and yesterday also happened to be the first Ramadan. So this, I hope, is an indication of blessing that we may have upon Professor Kamal. The good deeds that he has done before might have been shown in certain ways, which sometimes we may not be able to realize it directly. Yesterday, I happened to read one writing by Professor Tamim. I think he was writing on remembering the writer of the writer of the concept paper of this university. So I just quote here where the first part of his writing. The Muslim world is heartbroken by the demise of Emeritus Professor Tan Sri Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan, a remarkable and distinguished writer, author, thinker, scholar, and intellectual of the 21st century Malay world. So I just have this quotation in order to summarize a bit the way we address him. He is an intellectual, he is a scholar, he is a thinker, and you can add to this list actually based on what we have known, we have read, we have been acquainted with him. So certainly the list will be longer than what is stated here. Now, originally, we were invited to speak on Professor Kamal as a Murabbi and a friend, which I feel bad also to consider him as a friend, given his standing and his status and so on. But even if it is to be pushed that we consider him as a friend, he is quite a different type of friend. And that quality of friendship has already been manifested in the words of our brothers just now. And certainly this is true also if you look at his, approach, if you happen to have opportunity to be with him, right? So therefore, to speak on Professor Kamal, to me, is both. It is a privilege, and it is also a challenge. A privilege because we are given the opportunity to say a few words on someone who has such a standing in society, not only in IIUM but also in the world, among the Ummah and also in the world. So that to us, we consider it as a privilege. It is a challenge because he is not here. He is not here physically to verify whether what we are saying is truly reflective of what he has in his mind or his character. But that is what Allah has determined, so there is no regret on that. We accept what has been determined by God. But with a few limitations, on some limitations that we have, so in this context, I stand to be corrected by more reliable parties if my views, my insights, my words here, based on my experience and also readings and acquaintance with him, that might not be accurate, because knowing Professor Kamal as a very refined person, refined in terms of thought, refined in terms of manner, refined in terms of work. So sometimes our views may be correct according to us, but with a more refined mind, that might not be so. So I have to state this because I just want to console myself that what I am going to say is only reflective of what I feel, which is not necessarily be representative of what Professor Kamal feel if he is around. So I have to establish that limitation and also do a disclaimer in that particular sense. So maybe it is good also, like other what have been done by other panelists, to divide my sharing into a number of aspects. Number one, I would say I will touch on how I came to know and later be acquainted with Professor Kamal. So that is the first part. And since we are talking about Murabbi, maybe it is good also to talk about the concept of Murabbi a bit, and this is related to the concept of Islamic Tarbiyah at the same time. And later, this will be followed by how Professor Kamal has worked in realizing this particular concept of Islamic Tarbiyah, particularly in this university. So these are some of the main aspects that I am going to touch. Like others, I was not a direct I was not a student of Professor Kamal in the conventional sense, in the sense of that we were registered as a former student, being his student elsewhere, either in UKM or elsewhere. But I believe if we broaden the concept of student to also include what we learn from a person that we consider to be our teacher, our mentor, through not necessarily a formal way of learning like what have been taking place today in modern time, but learning can also take place through socialization, through acquaintance, through companionship, through work, and so on. So in that sense, I certainly would consider myself to be his student, a student that gain insights and knowledge and wisdom from him through a number of engagement and participation in programs, for example, where he was there. So basically, I came to know him in two ways. Before 1984 and after 1984. Before 1984, that was the time when, or that was the year when I joined this university. University was established in 1983 and I joined in 1984. So I have a 3-digit staff number. Alhamdulillah. Now 10,000, nearly 10,000. So prior to my joining of this university, I came to know him through works in plural. Works means writing. Mainly those days we had, the working paper in seminars were very popular. So whenever we had seminar, we will have that working paper with the back and so on. That was something that we miss now. So I came to know him through writings, through his works, and in seminar and also other. One of my friends reminded me also that Dr. Hazizan, you were once the chairman of a session during the time when I was a student of University of Malaya. We were in the student union organizing a program, and I was chairing one session, and that was extended by Professor Kamal. So because my memory is not like Professor Kamal, so I couldn't recall this, but I have to look at the photos and so on. So maybe occasionally I came in touch with him in that sense, but not really deep because of maybe our status as student and so on. So when I joined this university in 1984, then I came to know him more closely through work. that is through job, through profession. First as assistant lecturer, later as a lecturer, or what they call maybe assistant professor later, and then associate professor until now. And he was at that time when I joined the sheikh. There were only two sheikhs in early 1980s or 84 onward, or 93 onwards. One was the sheikh for Center for Fundamental Knowledge, where I joined through this center, and the other sheikh was the sheikh for law faculty, or law kuliah of laws. Yeah? And there were only two faculties at that time, kuliah of laws and kuliah of economics. I think the first batch, or the first intake was about 157 something like this. Yeah? So Prof. Kamal was the sheikh of that center. So, and then later I came to be in contact with him in a number of ways throughout this. And then somehow I was also forced by him in a number of at a number of times to take over, to be the dean of the Kuliah of Islamic Review Knowledge in 2005. So I had very tough time with him, about nearly 1 hour or 40 minutes. He was trying to convince me. I said to him, why must you bring me into administration when I may be able to contribute a little bit better in academic than administration? But like Professor Kamal has mentioned, our Professor Akmal has mentioned, he has his own way of manipulating the situation. He would do this even if it takes a long time, then he will make it so that he will achieve his objective without hurting others. So that is something that not many people can do. So we have experience, or in other experiences, for example, people want us to do this or to be appointed as this. They simply say, okay, come and you take this post. So that is the normal way of people do. They use their power in order to do. But Prof. Akmal was, as I said, quite a different person in his way of dealing with people, and also his way of solving the problem. So he didn't mind spending longer time convincing this. But of course, as a thinking person, we had to argue with him also. So that's why sometimes we feel bad also for taking his time as the rector only to talk to us. But somehow things took place in that way. Right. Right. So now, my view about him as a Murabbi is based on this 39 years of experience, contact, acquaintances, where I happened to have held a few administrative positions, and he, of course, he was the sheikh, and then deputy rector, and the director. And what I can describe the best time that I have in this university, two periods. One is in the beginning when I joined this university, where I could observe and also understand the very nature of tarbiyah that he would like to make it happen in this university. And the second one, which I feel very emotional about it and sentimental about it, is when he was closer to me even physically, when I was appointed as the first director of Center for Islamization. He was the advisor, and as said by Dr. Akmal, he has his room there. This is his room, where we are now. It was his room. But when a new office was constructed, he had a room. But we felt bad also because the room of the director is bigger than the room of the advisor. And the room of the advisor did not have toilet. So we offered him, but like what Professor Akmal has mentioned, he as usual will object. But I said, anytime you want to use washroom, please, Prof. And he never used that. when we were there. He would only use when we are away. So because, as I said, he's a refined person. He did not want to disturb others in any way. So only when he found that we are not disturbed, then he will be doing this. So these are the elements of tarbiyah as a murabbi that we could see, not necessarily in terms of his direct teaching, but in terms of his interaction with us. Now, a few examples that I may mention here, because this is only a short, sharing session. I have decided to also put this in writings later in the longer, in the written work. But maybe a few things that I could mention manifesting this. I would consider him to be a murabbi in three senses. Maybe the immediate sense that we have is a murabbi when he is in class, and then of course display certain way of this, and then educate people and so on might take place. That is only one side. He was also a lecturer, and I believe that he was also demonstrating all these qualities when he was teaching in the Department of Usuluddin and Comparative Religion. He was a lecturer, and the Murabbi elements have been also practiced during his lectureship and so on. But other than being a Murabbi in that very normal sense, Prof. Kamal was also a Murabbi in the sense that he was ideologue. He was ideologue. He has the idea. He come up with certain idea, and he make that idea written and clear. So that is why I certainly believe when he was entrusted to write concept paper for this university, it was due to this kind of quality that he has, that he gained a trust from the Ministry of Education and also even Prime Minister at that particular time to write the concept paper. And certainly this can be understood that what he wrote was accepted by the government, and therefore that was his idea. So he had the idea, the concept of Islamic education or tarbiyah, and then put it in writing, and that is one sense of being a murabbi. They have idea, come up with the concept paper, and so on. Now the third one was that not only having the concept on paper, but he himself was engaged, and he participated in the realization of the concept of education that he has made it written in that. So throughout his life in university, I can't see any time or period that he was absent in one way or another to contribute to the continuous development of the university in order to realize this concept of this. Now, two examples maybe during the early period that we did was that, so education was not only to see and measure people's achievement in terms of academic, but also in terms of behavior. So one thing that we did those days were to also reward those who have to spend their time educating others. For example, in Usrah, we have Nuqaba, Naqib. These Naqib, they have spent their time a lot. But academically, of course, this is not counted in the normal sense. But when we counted the total, the total marks for all this, so we will go to the list again, seeing their participation and those who have contributed in educating others through other channels which are not taken into account. So we will give some marks for this. So that is how I think early reflection of this. Another thing, of course, he was very particular about transliteration. to the extent that the monthly minutes of the department meeting will have to be vetted, and we learn a lot to the extent that I myself was able to even present a paper and publish book on transliteration because of this process of learning from him. So I became more acquainted with transliteration system because of this practice. So maybe at the later part, when I was appointed as the director of Centris, there were many programs that have been what you call is developed with him as advisor, and I felt very comfortable. But sometimes also we feel bad because we could not do much for accommodating him in some ways. But Alhamdulillah, many programs like Islahi and also diploma, and also we managed to start a special program that is a certificate in Islamic studies for the retirees. So this program I think continue until now in Putrajaya, where the retirees, mainly from the ladies, the retired ladies, they took this certificate. I think every year we produce this. So I would like to end this by, let me see, reading, not to say reading, looking at the definition of Murabbi, so that this, what you call it, this would really reflect a person that we are talking about. And this I quote from one of the academic journal writings on entitled The Notion of Murabbi in Islam, an Islamic Critique of Trends in Contemporary Education by Yadullah Kazmi, our former staff as well. So I want to close with these quotations and also some additional statements. A murabbi is regularly defined as one who is not only knowledgeable and wise, but also pious, kind, and considerate. In other words, a murabbi is a person who combines a life of learning with a life of virtue, and hence a perfect and an ideal person to learn from. A murabbi denotes a wholesome teacher, comprehensive and balanced, cultured and well-mannered, as opposed to al-muallim in Western construct. The task of al-murabbi includes perfecting moral vision and instilling holistic worldviews and integrating the refined quality of al-mu'addib. So therefore, with this, yes, Professor Kamal has left us. We miss him dearly, but that is what Allah has determined. We have to accept. But what remains to be taken as responsibility for us is to continue looking into his legacy and try our best within our limitation to realize what he wanted to realize during his time. Wallahu alam. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grace him and bless his soul. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Okay, there's so much information. I myself also I can't summarize everything, Prof. But the one thing that I love to hear from you that Prof achieve his objective, okay, without hurting others. That's very true. Okay, so there is one side of as a murabbi itself, right? Okay, maybe we have a few minutes more. Maybe from Prof. Faris, anything that you want to add? Maybe.
Of course, I think listening to my colleagues, I would say that like Prof. Faizal mentioned, maybe it is not justifiable for us. To even talk about him. Like Prof. Faizal mentioned, this is just our opinion, and I'm very sure I think Prof. Kamal has very clear vision and mission what we would like to achieve. So I guess uh, I echo what Prof. Hazan mentioned, that the challenge is for us to understand. I mean, maybe we need to go and revisit his original ideas, writings, and of course, during the Vision 2077 project, also he has also put some of his wishes, like a wasiah to. In fact, he mentioned that. I mean, I remember in this very room when we started the project, he said that I want this to be my wasiat to the ummah. I mean, to really be concerned about the ummah and to really plan and also, I mean, work for the unity of the ummah and also for to fulfill the divine mandate from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala as the Khalifah in this earth. So that's why I guess it's a big shoes for us to fill. So I hope that we can work together and continue the intellectual discourse as well as revisiting his ideas for the benefit not only for the current students but also for the future students. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Prof. Akmal, maybe, yeah.
You know, I sometimes ask myself that if perhaps given the time, would there be some sort of changes the way that Prof. Kamal was looking at Islamization itself? You know, I was pondering over this question because at the later time when he was with us, I would say that he was some kind of flexible with adapting even the concept of Islamization with the current ones. Perhaps this is only an assumption, but I do see that how Prof. Kamal himself was trying to adapt to new trends, thinkings, especially when Ziauddin Sardar's integration and the way that, you know, he mentioned triple IT was, you know, mellowing down a little bit on Islamization, and the way that he was revising perhaps, but unofficially, the word Islamization. I mean, he was reverting to the other one alternative, the Jana Islamicization. You know, he was saying that Islamicize is something, making something Islamic, right? And also the Vision 2077 and the way that, you know, I think that when we talk about an Islamic institution like IIUM, one of the things I think that indirectly what Prof. Kamal want to leave us the message with is that we must have that kind of, you know, adaptive attitude towards the changes around us, you know, and he was actually depicting that, and the way that, you know, he was trying to be on the same page with Sejahtera, for an example, right? I mean, he was putting on a lot of efforts in order for us to understand, right? And then again, really, if you look at it, you see that, you know, Islamization is more about academic, the discipline, and the projection of the Islamization on towards the society is the Sejahtera kind of thing, the way that you translate that into practice. So my last words would be that as an institution, I mean, Prof. Kamal is not just only a legacy, but like mentioned by Prof. Faris just now, he is the wasiyah that we need to do to ensure that this institution, this university, we keeps on that path, you know, because we are an Islamic university. The definition of Islam itself in our name need always to be taken care for. I mean, but with what initiatives? So the challenges are with us, and even after his departure, I think that we should be gathering, you know, pulling ourselves together, and try to re-strategize. I mean, that is the best way for us to remember him. rather than having some kind of unofficial. This is good, but then again, I would say that the more effective way of going forward with this one is that we need to re-strategize with all this that we have been discussing about, on how to actually uh, realize the intention of Prof. Muhammad Kamal Hassan, the intention of what he really wants this institution to be. Islamization, but to be adaptive and also to really sense all the changes, the way forward with Vision 2077. So he has left us not only with a legacy, as I mentioned, but also with wasiyah and homeworks to be done. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, Prof. Azizan, anything else?
No, just to go back to the word murabbi and tarbiyah. The root word, I do not know, this is the Arabic expert, maybe from the word Rob is also there. So if you want to simplify the whole business and enterprises and also the process of tarbiyah is any learning and process and so on would have to be eventually leading us towards God. So that perhaps might be a summary of this, that any science, any process, any knowledge so therefore should be leading towards either recognizing God and having the spirit of belief in God and so on. So he has always mentioned particularly that if a science is not able to bring us to God in one way or another, directly or indirectly, that the science cannot be considered as having what we want like it to be. So that is where Islamization comes in, the spirit of that. So that is number one. And number two is that he is, yes, of course, idealist. But at the same time, he is realist. So I think this, he has been able to strike a balance between this in a very, very nice way. And as a refined person, he really is a model. We can't really find someone like him now, at least in our case. But we pray that there could be, by the grace of Allah, many of this kind later, inshallah. And yes, and lastly is that actually being with him for 39 years at different stages and in different positions and opportunities, actually not many, I do not know, maybe some people, when they look at Professor Kamal from outside, actually Professor Kamal is also in private and personal, is really a friend. But like I mentioned to you, it is a different kind of friend. Yeah? There are many trivias that can be treasured into. He has a very, meaningful and effective sense of humor, sense of humor that I feel I am looking forward to work in my office after office, because he was there. Then we can do something that is not very formal, for example, chit-chatting about non-formal things, and that will be a very more free, and also we don't really have barriers to discuss things which are normally sensitive or controversial and so on. So that was the time that we missed, but these trivias may be shared also by others who were with him later in the series of tribute that that center is organized. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Faris. Thank you, Prof. Akmal. And thank you, Prof. Azizan. Okay, thank you. We appreciate very much on the views, opinions, expressions, whatever said just now. It really, really give us some motivation, basically. Okay, for us to do something good in life, inshallah. And before we end, okay, can we recite Al-Fatiha as an hadiah to Al-Marhum Prof. Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan, inshallah. Al-Fatiha. May Allah grant him the highest place in Jannah, inshallah. Amin. Inshallah, thank you for the audience. Inshallah, there will be another session, sharing session on Prof. It will be on the 7th of April 2023. It will be the same Friday. Friday will be on Friday, still on 10:30 to 12 noon, inshallah. Okay. Before we end, thanks again to all our presenters, and we adjourn our session by reciting Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-Asr.